Welcome back to Dan and Devin Tech Talk. I'm Devin Sardelli, Sales and Marketing for Silicon Plains.
And I'm Dan, CEO.
Today, we want to give you guys two easy ways to put you in the top 20% of companies in your industry. We're talking about gaining that competitive edge and why hiring Silicon Plains is that one move that is going to put you in the top 20% in your industry. So Dan, what are a couple of the easy ways that when we talk to business owners, we can give them advice on how to put themselves in the top 20% of companies in their industry? What are the two easiest competitive advantages that they can do to give them that edge?
So this is probably one that's going to be, not the most exciting approach to it. We're not about to put people on Mars like Elon Musk as far as competitiveness is concerned, but it's one of the things that I'm super passionate about, and I wish it was easier to, especially from a business owner standpoint, to get them excited about it, because it's not complicated. And we are bragging a little bit by saying hire us, but I think that's what gives us our special sauce. I think that's what it is we're constantly focused on helping our clients get more competitive. So a couple of things, and these are my top two, and it's just what I've seen after getting old and crusty and bald in this industry. So one of the first things that we'll hear from prospects, people who are thinking about doing business with us, and we'll sit in the room with them and they'll describe their business and talk about how they're special, they're different in their industry. And I absolutely believe that. They wouldn't exist if they weren't different. And they'll relate it directly to their technology. And they'll say, our computers are different. The way our users use them is different. The way that we even access the internet, the speed we need, all these, way more files than anybody else, those kinds of examples. And their point being, I think in that first point that they're coming from is, they've experienced so much pain because people are telling them along the way, well, we've never done that before, or, they grow up with, or grow along with a one-person show from an IT support standpoint, and they just exceed this person's capabilities over time, or their internal staff's skills and capabilities. And so they start to feel like they're really special, they're very unique. And as a business owner, you're not exposed to everything going on in the technology world. And so, it's safe to assume that based on your experience of your tech being not all that great, we must be special. So I got to thinking about that, like what is making these people think that these business owners who are thinking about doing business with us, what makes them feel like they're special? And it's got to be that pain and suffering. And so number one that we approach things with is a perspective that your business has to rely on super reliable, drama-free, kind of that foundational baseline IT infrastructure. And lots of companies, even to this day, don't have that. They'll have, equipment that's extremely old, plugged into equipment that's brand new. They'll have some stuff that they got from Best Buy. They'll have that one thing that their nephew knew how to build, and that's the CEO's computer, and it only runs okay, but when it does run, it runs super fast. Then they'll have the guy at the front desk who's greeting all the staff who almost never uses his computer, and his runs just fine, but he always needs it immediately, and sometimes the screensaver won't kick off. It just goes on and on and on. So it just feels like it's all over the place. We take the perspective that should be drama-free. And I think if you think about the staff time in this point one, the staff time and the drama level, and just the way it can negatively affect culture and where even executive leadership is spending their time. They're talking about network switches and their IT people and all this basic stuff that should really just operate like good plumbing. It should just be there, and you expect when you turn on the sink that the water will go away.
Right.
That it won't run down the front or leak underneath the cabinets. And I think most people are kind of thinking that their IT is super complex. It's not. It's just good. We can make it good plumbing, and it should be good plumbing. So that makes you competitive because you're spending so much less time screwing around with this junk that you had been kind of maybe leading somebody along by saying, we're a really special company. Well, then the technology people go, oh, well, then we need really special technology. And you never did. You absolutely never did. You needed good stuff, but it needed to be stuff that just runs. So that's point one. Number two is staff training. Staff training, I think, is one of the most heavily overlooked and thought to be super complicated and difficult to achieve things in IT. And there are so many excellent training programs, and we've got one of the best, that when you hire a company like us, so we talked about point one, great infrastructure, everything just runs, but maybe not everybody knows how to use it, so now you've got a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Got good stuff, Real fast race car, no race car drivers.
Right.
And so we want to turn everybody into a pretty good driver. We build these training programs and make sure that people not only understand the basics of how to use everything that's in place, and I don't mean like something complicated. It's what is the right way to use Outlook? You know, should you have a million folders? Should you just have one? Should you be leaning on the search function a little bit more? How do you get a signature in place? And how do you get a consistent signature in your email across your organization? How do you apply retention policies so people aren't deleting stuff when they quit that you need later on? And where do you go get it once they've left without knowing their password or having to keep their account and PC around for a long time? And I know that there's gonna be a lot of people watching the video going, oh my God, I've had that problem before. But this staff training focuses on those basics. I've seen so much time wasted on really simple things that it really ends up, again, just like crappy infrastructure, you just have lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, probably the most common example I see is with all the different ways that Microsoft now allows you to share files have become that they're just all over the place. So they went from like on file shares, remember the days of just folders and ES drive and stuff like that, and that turned into a mess. And then Microsoft didn't turn that off. They just turned on more ways to share files, like 10 more ways.
Right.
You got OneDrive, you got stuff you can jam in Teams, you got SharePoint. You can even share files straight out of Outlook. Where do those go? Nobody knows. You can share them off of your desktop. And it's important for staff to understand what's the right way to use all these tools I've got in front of me. And even more importantly than that, let's use them the same way across the company. So getting back to what I originally started with, you know, this idea that we're special and we need to have special technology, and we want you to help us be competitive, Silicon Plains, by making us different and better than our competitors. It's not some sort of patented process. It's still, we're missing the basics. Achieve those basics, and I guarantee, and I haven't done the statistics on this, but in my personal experience, the research, in my personal experience, you're in the top 20, 15, maybe even 10% of every company in your industry if you can just get predictable infrastructure that you don't have to think about, and great staff training in place, and they know how to use that stuff. Your people are going to be focused on what it is you do that actually makes you special every single day.
You know, it's actually really crazy when you think about it like that, because this is pretty universal across almost every industry. When you focus on the fundamentals, that is what always puts you as far ahead of your competitors as you can be. And it's no different with IT. It's the exact same thing with IT. You know, people come to us all the time and ask, what can I do to gain a competitive advantage? How can I use you guys as an expert IT consult, basically, where I can ask you any kinds of questions and you can just give me great answers and great ways to get ahead of my competition? Well, this is it. It is boring, we get it. Not a lot of people like to think about it, but if you want the honest answer, if you want a competitive advantage, there's only two things you gotta do. One, you gotta have solid computer systems, solid infrastructure so that you've got the proper foundation laid. And then two, your employees gotta know what they're doing. You gotta have proper employee training so that they can be efficient and focus on what matters to your business without having to waste time trying to figure out how to use stuff.
That's exactly right.
When you say it like that, it's really simple.
It usually is.
Yeah. It's usually always a simple answer, isn't it?
And not nearly as exciting as Beans the dog.
Right, exactly. I know. We thought about bringing Beans on actually as an extra special guest for this episode, but he was busy doing, I think it was like a movie set or something, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's the Brad Pitt of dogs.
Pitt of dogs.
Yeah.
Just make him the, what do they call it, the little icon?
The thumbnail.
The thumbnail.
Yeah, the thumbnail's going to be Beans. We're just going to get a bunch of views on this because people are going to think it's a dog. So Beans is Dan's dog, in case you guys didn't know. Check out our Facebook and our LinkedIn. We've got a picture of him up on there. So if you want to be introduced, go ahead. It's up there for you.
So jealous of him.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to add, Dan? Just tell business owners anything else about how they could potentially gain a competitive advantage when it comes to IT. And
I think even if you don't hire Silicon Plains, you just make sure that you're demanding from your IT provider that your infrastructure, and when I say that, it's the blue wires, it's the stuff in the closet, it's the things that you really wish you didn't have to think about or deal with on a day-to-day basis. Or even when you talk to your IT provider, you go to your IT provider and you demand from them that you get standardized IT infrastructure in place, and by standardized, make them prove it, make them prove that this stuff works worldwide, and that whatever they're doing for you is going to be exactly what's been done for everybody else. And then make sure that they've got a training program. Everybody's going to say that they can get you training. Make sure they have one in place that's tried, true, and proven. There's going to be plenty of them that say, well, I can write a curriculum, or I can build some stuff, or I can show somebody how to. That's not what we're talking about. This should be policy driven, straight from HR, regular use, tests at the end kind of training that doesn't take a lot of staff time, but really puts them on a set of railroad tracks to get better and better over time and just continue to reinforce those skills.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. We will see you back here next week. Until then, stay classy.